We're good to go.
All right, we'll call the meeting to order. Can we have the flag for the Pledge of Allegiance, please? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Roll call, please.
John Douglas,
Here.
Michael Howry,
Here.
Michelle Hayes,
Yeah.
Gene Sensi.
Here.
Is there a motion to approve the agenda?
I'll move.
I'll second.
Discussion? Roll call?
John Douglas,
Yes.
Michael Howry,
Yes.
Michelle Hayes,
Yes.
Gene Sensi.
Yes.
Vote is 4-0.
Are there any board member reports for this evening?
Nope.
All right, seeing none, we're going to open the first public participation portion for the evening. This is on agenda items only. I would point out that if folks are here and they want to make comment on our extracurricular activity, including sports, choir, band, or even the calendar that we have for the year, that we're going to have some presentations this evening from our athletic director and our superintendent of those, and there will be a second public participation portion at the end of the evening where participants could make comment at that point after they've heard the presentations, and that might be a better way to do that. So having said that, we'll open the first public participation portion for this evening.
Okay, as we've done before, I'm going to allow everybody to unmute themselves if they so choose.
And Dad.
John is joining us.
Hello, hello.
Lou.
All right. Sorry about that.
John, I don't hear anybody.
Okay, so all the mics are unmuted on our end.
If they've so chosen to be unmuted, yes.
Okay.
So after you wrap it up, I've got to mute you all and then unmute the board and the administration again.
So again, this is our first public participation portion for the evening on agenda items only, and we're going to leave the open for a moment in case you're wanting to address the board on agenda items. All right, seeing none, we'll close the first public participation portion for this evening. Do you need a minute, Mike, to remute?
So just take a second. John, I've got you unmuted also.
All right.
Or I'm going to allow you to unmute. If you want to mute yourself, you can, but then you have to give us a high sign or something if you want to talk.
Gotcha. I'm unmuted right now, right?
Okay. Yep.
Okay.
All right. I think that's everybody.
Okay, so we'll move to reports and recommendations of the treasurer.
Thank you. I only have one thing to talk about, and it's brief, that is not on the agenda. Actually, I'm going to show you. I don't know if you can see all of that. There's all the PPE we talked about at the last meeting. You know, we got a lot of masks in and sanitizer, and I went through the list last time. But today we received 2,300 reusable masks for our employees from the Bureau of Workers' Compensation. So as soon as we come up with a plan on how to distribute those are for our employees. And those will be the people that get them. Everybody should get at least 5. The Bureau announced last week that they were distributing them, and ours came pretty quick. So, and I think Angela said we might be getting some from the FEMA, right?
FEMA.
Because they
Yeah.
have millions that they could distribute. So we should be set with masks even now that the governor said that all students have to wear a mask regardless of the age. We should still be fine. So any questions on that? Okay, so I have one item on the agenda, and it's just in addition to the advance that you approved at the meeting in July. We had one more person that had signed up, and we had to make sure we advanced the money in to cover their FSA contributions during the year. So the motion is to approve an advance from Fund 001 General Fund to Fund 024 Self-Insurance Fund in the amount of $2,750.
I'll move. I'll second.
Any discussion? Roll call?
Michael Howry,
Yes.
Michelle Hayes,
Yes.
Gene Sensi,
Yes.
John Douglas,
Yes.
vote is 4-0. And that's it for tonight. Thank you.
Thank you. Reports of the administrative team.
Okay, well, I'm going to start with something actually non-COVID related for a few minutes. We got an email yesterday, and I saw it today because yesterday I couldn't check any email. But I saw it today from the OFCC, used to be called the Ohio Schools Facilities. I can't even remember what the OFCC stands for now, but about their school facilities portfolio. And Mike's gonna share it for me because we thought it was pretty cool that our projects, which were completed in 2013, are featured in this website, both South Elementary and the middle school. Information on the page includes photos, facts, and locations for the buildings. The web page was created by the OFCC in 2018 to showcase the work of the commission to the state's taxpayers. Since 1997, more than $13 billion has been invested in construction and renovation of educational spaces throughout the state. So it was kind of cool to see it in my inbox because I don't know if for Mike, but for me, I do know that was one of the most fantastic experiences in my educational career, and really a once in a lifetime opportunity. I never, had been involved in construction before, and it was pretty cool to see. So
I would agree. That's one of the reasons why when the job opened up, I came here, was the opportunity to build buildings.
and it's hard to believe those buildings are now 7 years old, but on the web page, it talks a little bit about the design of the building, what it cost, our share, and the state of Ohio share. A little bit about the architects. One of the things we had to do when we built the buildings is make them environmentally friendly, and we received a silver rating for LEED when we did this with the 2009 version. I'm sure the requirements are a little more strict as they learn more about what impacts the environment. But, there's some pictures of the various spaces within the building and things when they were new and shiny. So that's South Elementary. And then there's a page for the middle school. So
Very cool.
isn't it cool? So,
Very.
so something non-COVID related to start my report tonight. Now to get into everything else related to COVID. I've got John Dragus here tonight because I think, just to update you, there's so much confusion about what's required, what the starting dates of various sports are. So I've asked John to talk a little bit about various startups what he's doing to train staff, and then I'll follow up on some of the other items related to what we know and what we don't know. So, Mr. Dragus, are you ready?
Yeah, I am ready. So can everyone hear me, I hope? Where we're at right now is the OHSAA is talking with the governor's office and with the lieutenant governor, and I think they're working with the Ohio Department of Health. Initially, it was the county health departments that had quite a bit of say in what
Hey,
was
can
gonna
I interrupt?
happen.
Yeah,
Sure.
It's you started really strong and now it seems to fade to your volume.
How about now? Let
That,
me take my
that
head.
was
Let
clear.
me. Okay. Might be my headphone. I'm using headphones.
Okay.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, that's better.
Okay.
Thank
Very
you.
clear.
All right. So, so the counties, Cuyahoga County around us, Portage County, initially put in October 1st as dates that they didn't want live school or live sports. Since that came out on August 1st, over the weekend, the Ohio Department of Health came out with contradicting terms. So now the schools are going on the premise that Columbus is higher up the ladder than a county. So Mayfield and Brush, which were in Cuyahoga County and were put on hold, on Monday announced that they would no longer be on hold. So as a conference, we were going to lose two of our schools, and I know the superintendents and the principals and ADs were concerned of what the conference would do as a result of that. As it turns out, we have got them back, so we're gonna go forward with what the guidance is from Columbus on having our sports teams. So far, to my knowledge, as of right now, we've had no COVID cases with any of our athletes or coaches. It's been close. We've had an athlete's mother come down with it. That athlete was immediately, the protocols in place are to isolate that athlete for 14 days. We've had a few, another coach that works, not a teacher, and one of her coworkers came down with it. So she was tested by her employer, and that test came back negative. But as soon as she found out, we isolated her from the volleyball program. So we have the protocols in place from the Ohio Department of Health. We're following them, and I'm happy to say that everything so far with the summer workouts that we've been doing, the distancing, which has been a great chore for our coaches. The kids don't necessarily understand it, but we're working really hard to keep them separated as much as we possibly can. We're sanitizing. We're working in groups. We're not having 2 or 3 different sports going at the same time. We've spread things out throughout the day. We're using the middle school and the high school facilities. We're using, the different grass areas out back of the middle school and the high school, as well as the stadium, to keep people apart. So everything that we're doing so far has been a positive result. Moving forward, the state has established contact versus non-contact sports. So for Madison, our 5 contact sports would be football, soccer, wrestling, basketball. 4. Those are the 4 contact sports we have. I have wrestling written twice on my list. The rest of the sports now are considered non-contact. I personally have a little bit of an issue with cross country because I think there's a lot of breath involved when you're running, and it's a lot of saliva flying. But right now the state is saying that cross country can be a non-contact sport. So in any event, there's 2 different sets of guidelines. There's a set of guidelines for non-contact sports, and there's a set of guidelines for contact sports. The universal guidelines is wash your hands. If you feel sick, don't come. Wear a mask whenever possible. Stay 6 feet apart. So those are the consistent guidelines that everyone should be following from the day the moment you walk into a building. Which the building has pretty much been off limits. We've only had access to the weight room through the parking lot, the gym through one door. We haven't opened any of the locker rooms, nor do I think we should. We've been using the restrooms in the stadium for all of the athletic conditioning that's been going on. So in any event, the big dilemma is with the contact sports. There's 3 things that are part of it that I think the Board of Education needs to really understand from a fiscal responsibility. Number one, there are no fans at contact sports. Right now, the governor still has in place the 10-person limit. He went back to that last week. Volleyball is a non-contact sport, so I'm assuming we can have 10 people. We're trying to get clarification on that. But football and soccer would move forward with no fans, according to this latest Ohio Department of Health memo. Also, 72 hours prior to a contest, everyone involved in the contest has to have a COVID test. Now, that can go anywhere from, I'm going to say, $125 to $200. The test has to come back in 72 hours. I think those two hurdles right there are pretty high. And then the third part of that is if anybody tests positive, the entire team, coaching staff, has to go into a 14-day self-quarantine until they're all tested again and they come back all negative. So I think the contact sport protocols right now are a very high hurdle. We've estimated it, I estimated it based on last year's numbers, and to the Board of Education, if we were going to pay for it, you're at over $150,000. Mayfield is at over $225,000. They have more athletes than we do. And the 72-hour window would mean we would constantly be testing teams that have 2 events a week. So soccer plays twice a week. They would have to get tested every 3 days, pretty much. They would have Saturdays off because you'd have to test Sunday for Tuesday. You would have to test Monday for Thursday. So those are some pretty strong hurdles. The Football Coaches Association met with the Lieutenant Governor as well as the OHSAA on yesterday. And of course, Governor DeWine had no real good new information today. So I think the 21st of August is the start date for soccer and volleyball contests. So we have time. We have about 2 weeks. I told Mrs. Smith that by Tuesday the 18th, Wednesday the 19th, I think that's when we have got to make a decision as to the financial ability of us to test everyone if that's still in place. Now, again, we know that information changes quickly. So I'm thinking in 2 weeks that there's a good chance that those hurdles may come down. But in any event, when it's all said and done, we're trying to do things safely. We're trying to keep kids healthy. As a parent who has 2 sons that are going to be playing sports, I want to see it go forward. But as the athletic director, I want to make sure that everybody's going to be safe and healthy. So we're going to continue to do what we're doing, and we're going to follow all the guidelines until they change them. But if they don't change, I think, the board and Mrs. Smith and Mr. Vaccarello and Mr. Bull, you guys can come to some sort of an idea if we can financially support athletics, if that's good, what the price tag's going to be, with no fans, which is going to really hurt our ability to generate any kind of revenue that we're used to. Questions?
And I want to add just 2 things. One, I was on a call with the county superintendents this morning, and there was a representative from Lake Health there who basically said tests are not available. We are, to do the amount of testing that would have to be done for student athletes, there just isn't that kind of testing capacity right now. Now they are working on some sort of saliva test that they think might come into play here if we have to do that, and we'll know in 10 to 11 days if that's going to be an option. And re-echo some of the press conference today, Lieutenant Governor Houston basically said that the governor's office and his office are working with OHSAA, the various athletic representatives to come up with a proposal that would balance the need for athletes to compete, because I don't think there's anybody here on this board or on the administrative team that doesn't think athletics is a vital part of well-being to our students, or any extracurricular for that matter. So to balance the need for that with the health and safety requirements that ultimately we have to think about. Right now, they've been practicing in a vacuum, but coming to school and being, with other students. And, one of the things the governor again said today is, we know we need to have kids in school. We need to do it as safely as possible, which is why then he made the mask mandate order for all students K to 12, with the exceptions that are listed for medical and some of the other things that he outlined in his order. Now questions.
I have a question for you, Mr. Dragas. So if we determine if these do stay in place and we determine that we cannot afford to do this, are the kids still allowed to practice during these times? So that
Yeah,
they're not skills. I mean, I realize that they may not play any games, but can they still condition? Can they still practice as a group? Things of that nature.
There was no rules against it with the OHSAA. That would be our local decision to determine that. And I think if it could be safe, sure, I think we could allow the kids to still practice if they want to, with knowing that they wouldn't have any contests. I'm not opposed to that. I think that you would tell me that that's something that you would allow us to go forward with, and then we could do that.
Okay. Thank you.
So John, you said that, these test results have to be back in 72 hours. And during my daytime life in human resources, we've had numerous instances. We've been open the entire time since March, and we've had numerous employees tested. I've never had one test come back in 72 hours. It didn't matter whether it was Cleveland Clinic, Lake Health, or UH. Are you hearing any sort of different capacity for students to be able to get these results back? Because I know they have to be done no sooner than 72 hours before a contest. So you're not testing kids 3 weeks out, which means not much. But at the same time, that's such a short window for getting the test results back. Well,
so every week we have 150 to 200 athletic directors that are doing a Google meeting. Actually, last week we met 3 times. The consensus amongst everybody, but I think our neighbors, is that there's no way we can function with these protocols. We can't afford the testing. We know that nothing's going to happen in 3 days. Yeah, that we know that's unrealistic. So we will not be the only school district that if we're faced with that decision, would be unable to meet those requirements. I think every school district is looking at, I believe one of the ADs last week, after the announcement came out over the weekend, was this is the kiss of death for contact sports. No, I'm not disillusioned at all about the inability to follow their protocol.
Thank you.
All right, there's no other questions on sports. I will move on to some of the other items in my report. We are still finalizing our virtual school numbers. We know they're between 850 and 900 students. Some families enrolled multiple times, so we've had to eliminate those. Some have amended plans as they've asked further questions. So we're trying to be as flexible as we can in this early phase so that we are shored up well for the start of school. We are working on scheduling and assignments. And I know one of the questions at the elementary level is, when will lists come out? Well, lists never come out until right before school starts. So I would not anticipate those lists being released too much before the start of school. because we are still working on, because of the numbers, and we have to staff the virtual school, then we have to work on staff assignments, and there'll be some adjusting of grade levels from there. But we want to do it in the least disruptive way possible once we figure out the virtual assignments. So that's where we're at with all of the virtual school. Calendar changes, I have proposed this calendar change tonight because I think it gives us more time. It gives staff more time to feel comfortable in the building and be trained in the various protocols, and gives students an easy way in to reacclimate to school, because I think everybody's been out for so long that first day, the first time you've done anything after being out of it for a while in the COVID world, I kind of liken it to one of my very first trips out with my daughter and how anxious she was. Well, the kids coming back to school are going to be a little bit anxious, and to have them all in all at the same time, I don't think is a good idea. So our team has come up with the following schedule. The first week, August 17th through the 21st, it would be staff report only. Auburn would still go. We would run our buses to any of the schools that would be starting, but Auburn, it would be staff on our campus only. Opening day is always a professional development day and time for teachers to work in their classrooms. And then we will have various professional development sessions each of the following days. The 18th, we're going to do a lot with tech integration, with the help of the tech integration specialist from LGCA, our own tech staff, and those types of things, and our own teachers that have found success with some items. So that will be technology related. We'll have items related to, cleaning protocols, trauma-informed care. Our teachers came up with a list of things they would like to see for professional development during that week to help them be successful if in the event that we had to go remote, or even just adapting their classrooms to having one-to-one devices, which is something that they haven't had before at all levels. So it will be quite the full week. Then the week of August 24th is Welcome Back Week, and that would be for both face-to-face and virtual learning, because we've gotten a lot of questions. If I'm on a virtual learner, do I get to do, my Welcome Back Day? And you absolutely do. August 24th would be grades 12, 8, 5, and 4. August 25th, 11, 7, grades and 3 and 2. August 26th, grades 10, 1/2 of 6th grade, and kindergarten Wednesday, Friday group. August 27th would be grades 9, another half of 6th grade, and the kindergarten Tuesday, Thursday group. And then August 28th would be all grades with the Wednesday, Friday group of kindergarten. Tuesday, Thursday, I think them would go on Monday, but then the elementary principals will shore all those details up with the kindergarten parents. So that is the calendar change. It does not change any of our other dates. It might change a few grading, the first and second grading period ending and starting date a little bit. We haven't finalized that yet, but it will come out of all of our existing hours of instruction that we have throughout the year, because we do have more hours than are needed. And this is one of those extraordinary years where, while we need every minute of instruction, we also need to make sure that everybody's prepared and feels comfortable in what they're doing.
So on these welcome back days, for example, August 24th, 12th, 8th, 5th, and 4th grade.
Mm-hmm.
So those children have to report in person on that day. Do the virtual kids have to log in on that day?
Correct.
Okay.
Yes.
And are the virtual kids going to be given a set time that they have to log in on that day?
Yes, that will come from the building principal, but yes, they'll have a schedule. They'll be following their schedule that day. So if you're, elementary will be probably a little bit different. But the high school and middle school, they're going to be following a schedule, their regular schedule.
Can you give me an example of what a virtual schedule will be for middle school and high school?
Well, it'll be whatever it would be in the real building.
So that they're to be logged in from 8 a.m. until noon or 2 p.m. on their computer?
Yep, if they have a study hall, if they were going to have a study hall in the building, that would be a period that they wouldn't log in.
Okay.
So they might have breaks in their schedule, because it doesn't mean they will get, a class every period, because we do know that there are some study halls both at the middle school and high school. So then that would be a period that they wouldn't log in.
Okay, so say they have, first period math, second period English. They have to log in at the beginning of that class, and then the teacher will give them instructions on what to do and determine whether they stay logged in, or how is this going to work?
It would be like a regular class period. So the teacher's teaching those virtual learners that whole class period.
Okay. I don't know if anybody can hear me, but all of you are frozen on me. Is that happening to you guys too?
You're frozen on a, yeah.
We can hear you and you're not frozen on ours.
Okay.
Am I still bald?
Freeze right
And
there.
shiny.
All right. Any other questions about the calendar? Because that motion is on the agenda for this evening, but I wanted to take my time here to talk about it. Okay, I do want to give a quick update on transportation. They got all the information about students who are enrolled in virtual learning, those who have opted out. We are working now on trying to balance those routes, because we want to make those routes as small as possible and as even as possible. So we will have those ready for your approval at the special meeting next week. Once you approve them, they will go live on the webpage, and we will figure out a way that with transportation and how to communicate directly with each home. So that is our plan regarding the routes.
Is there any additional costs that have now been estimated because of additional routes being added?
Well, they aren't additional. We're just,
Okay,
I think we're trying to balance because we only have so many buses, so we can't increase the times. I'm asking transportation to look at how we can evenly distribute those buses. And some routes will be smaller by nature of distance, of how far they travel. So there's a lot of balancing to that. But
Okay.
ideally, if we could get them to 25 to 30 based on how many kids aren't riding, that would be wonderful. I think right now she had some at 40, which I said, if we can get that smaller, that's what I want. Because I want them balanced as possible.
Good.
So
Thank you.
with the kids that have chose to go virtual and the children that have opted out of transportation, we have enough buses to transport everybody that we need to transport?
That is what I'm telling you. Yes.
Very good. Thank you so much.
Okay. And then finally, I just want to thank all the staff who gave up a day of their summer voluntarily to have meaningful conversations about teaching and learning in the pandemic. Well, there are many unknowns, and I do know without a doubt, we have a staff that really cares about kids and their learning, and there's so many of these other unknowns with, social distancing to the T, lunch, where they're even going to eat lunch. We didn't talk about any of that during that day. We really talked about teaching and learning, and they shared so much, and there were so many ideas that were shared with our admin team that were creative, out of the box. And they help to shore up the ideas for what the training will be during that professional development week. So I truly appreciate each and every staff member that came out last Wednesday and thank them for their effort and the collaboration, because it was a wonderful day. Dave.
Okay. Thanks. I just have a couple updates. First, I wanted to do a follow-up on the Comprehensive Literacy State Development Grant we applied for. You may remember this is the one that we went in with as a consortium with about 6 other districts. Unfortunately, we got news last week that we did not receive that grant. We didn't get any feedback yet as to why we weren't selected, but you know, as usual, we always keep our eyes open for any of these competitive funding opportunities. We're always looking for opportunities to bring in additional funds to help support the work we're doing. This particular grant, had we gotten it, would have provided us with some training and some supplies around our literacy work. That work will still go on without this grant, but it would have been nice to have. But you know, we will continue to look for those opportunities. Some of the things that beyond the COVID world that I've been working on a little bit in the last week or two since we've spoken. Staffing, we're getting down to the wire here with school starting here later this month. We do have a few staffing positions to fill, and so a lot of those are in process. A bus mechanic, we've gone through a round of interviews. We're going to have some changes at custodian, some classroom aides, and some preschool teachers as well. And in addition to that, we're looking for to try to shore up the number of substitute teachers we'll have going into this school year, because as we're hearing around the state, they're going to be at a premium. So trying to make sure that we're prepared with that. So those are a couple biggies. And I guess one other item that I have been working on this week is the creation of a remote learning plan that is required to be submitted to the Ohio Department of Education because of House Bill 164. And so that will basically describe our plan for students who will be working at home, and the contingency for other students that could be working at home in the event that you know, there's an outbreak or our you know, the number of cases should spike. So any questions on any of the items that I've shared tonight?
David, what are we doing to make our need for substitute teachers available and aware to the community?
Well, generally, we get our substitutes through the ESC of the Western Reserve. They do a lot of outreach. They provide substitutes for most of the school districts in Lake County and Geauga County. So that's a nice bank of people. We often look to local universities to see who's recently graduated and point them in the direction of the ESC. Once they go through to submit the paperwork that they need to submit, we get a list of substitutes that have been approved by them. We then approve them as, you know, for employment within our district as needed. You know, we're looking at, you know, for the past several years, we've employed permanent building subs. They're with us every day, filling in for the first positions that become available. So we're looking to lock in those folks to make sure that in the event 1, 2, or 3 people are out, we at least have some people to fill in before we have to go outside to look. It's going to be a challenge with all positions in our district, I think, especially when you consider, you know, if you have a fever, if you have symptoms of COVID, if you've been exposed, you're being asked to stay home. And if, you know, we start to see several of those, our staff can quickly become depleted.
On tonight's agenda, you're approving 10 building subs, which is a little higher than previous years, but we need to lock these people down so they're available on a daily basis.
Good, thanks.
Ready for my recommendations then?
Sure.
All right. Under the personnel motion this evening, we are asking you to approve the following unpaid leave requests. The unpaid leave request of Sherry Basher, South Elementary second grade teacher for the 2021 school year. To approve the unpaid leave request of Cynthia Paprizos, North Elementary second grade teacher for the period of August 17th, 2020 through December 22nd, 2020. We're asking you to accept the retirement resignation of Sue Webster, Madison pre-K teacher, effective July 31st, 2020, after 20 years of service to the district. We're asking you to enter into the following employment contracts: to employ Rachel Huffman under a long-term substitute contract from August 17th, 2020 through May 28th, 2020, to perform the duties of Sherry Basher. The following persons under a one-year limited contract as a preschool instructor. That would be Elizabeth D. Miolo. The following persons under a one-year limited contract as a preschool assistant, and that would be Candace Moore and Stacy Robinson. To employ the following as building substitutes, beginning with Casey Nixis and ending with Jay Wolf. To employ the following certificated personnel under a one-year limited extended service supplemental contract for the 2021 school year, beginning with Catherine Kaminsky and ending with John Dragus. The following certificated personnel under a one-year limited supplemental contract for the 2021 contract year, beginning with Nick Riley and ending with David Nagan. The following non-certificated persons under a one-year limited personal service contract for the 2021 school year, beginning with John O'Brien and ending with Mashonda Hissam. And that would be the first personnel item on the agenda this evening.
Move.
I'll second.
So starting the discussion this evening, Angela, could you address, we haven't finalized sports here, as John Dragus just talked about, but we're signing all of these agreements for supplementals. Could you just explain that?
Yes, they have been working as we approved at the last board meeting, the memorandum of understanding. They have been working all summer. Their official practices were allowed to start on August 1st. We do have actually some contests starting at the end of this week with golf and tennis. So we have to have coaches employed before we can start any contests at all, let alone now we're under the official practice. So we need to have our coaches under contract for all the liability reasons we would want them employed.
So there are provisions in the event that the seasons would not go forward for partial payment of these instead of full
Correct.
for our coaches. Is that right?
Absolutely.
Any other discussion? Roll call?
Michelle Hayes,
Yes.
Gene Sensi,
Yes.
Sean Douglas,
Yes.
Michael Howry,
Yes.
vote is 4-0.
And we needed to pull out one item on the personnel motion. We needed to employ Janice Howry under a one-year limited contract as preschool secretary.
I'll move.
I'll second.
Discussion? Roll call?
Gene Sensi,
Yes.
Sean Douglas,
Yes.
Michael Howry,
Abstain.
Michelle Hayes,
Yes.
vote is 3-0-1.
And my last item under my recommendations this evening is to amend the 2021 school year calendar to move the student start date to August 24th, 2020, with a staggered start for Welcome Back Week, and to have all students report August 28th, 2020.
I'll move.
I'll second.
Roll call?
John Douglas,
Yes.
Michael Howry,
Yes.
Michelle Hayes,
Yes.
Gene Sensi,
Yes.
vote is 4-0.
And up for first reading tonight are two policies related to COVID-19. One is amendments to the attendance policy that just talks about the remote learning hours and whether it's in person or whether there's some delay, and it allows that flexibility in attendance that needs to be taken and gives us some responsibilities. But in our plan, we have said that teachers will have contact daily with their students. So attendance will be taken every day, whether you're in the virtual learning environment or whether you're in the face-to-face environment. And we know that that was part of an issue last spring. So the state addressed it, we're addressing it, and so this puts it into policy. And then the other policy is the facial covering policy. Excuse me. Too much talking. But the protective facial coverings during a pandemic, epidemic, and that policy basically now mirrors pretty much the language of the governor. And if we have to bring revisions forward, we'll bring those revisions before the next meeting and you can approve it in a second reading. This is just a first reading tonight, so it's not being adopted.
We have a motion.
I'll move.
I'll second.
Any discussion?
Just another question, Angela. So just to be clear, it's not just daily for middle school and high school. They'll be taking attendance every period. Is that correct?
Correct, correct, yes.
And then, but at the elementary, I'm still a little confused on how the elementary virtual is going to work.
We're working on that schedule. We put the schedule together. Now the principals have to share that out. But there'll be a check-in in the morning, some sort of English ELA lesson, those types of things. There'll be some small group work. There'll be office hours so that if a student wants additional help during these office hours, the teacher is there to take them, half-hour increments, and then they will wrap up at the end of the day. So
for some parents, so for parents that might be at work, they need to understand that their child, especially at middle school and high school level, are going to need to be on that computer and log in at 8:15 or whatever the start time is, and they're going to be taking attendance in every single class period that they have on their schedule.
correct.
Okay.
And that was shared in the
It's good
plan that they would
we
do
need
daily
to
day.
set those expectations for those online kids. We need to set those expectations.
We absolutely will, because that is one thing my administrative team was adamant, especially at the high school level. These students are going to log on every day and they're going to do their work every day. And we did say it was going to be vastly different than last spring, which was new to all of us. We learned some lessons, for sure.
So Angela, under the facial covering policy, I know we had a number of parents who required.
Oh my goodness. Hang on.
I muted you, Michelle.
Thank you. I'll start over. So Angela, I know we had a number of parents who disagree with our facial coverings draft policy as part of our reopening plans.
Yes.
But it seems that the governor has either issued an edict for that today or it's come through the Ohio Department of Health. It doesn't look like we're gonna have much of a choice with that. at this
Correct.
So I just want to point that out for those who might be here in attendance. If there are folks who disagree with that, this is no longer something that Madison can choose. This is something that is being told that we have to implement. So I just want to point that out. Is there any other discussion or animal attacks?
I'm so sorry. The little one was trying to take a bone from the big one. It wasn't going over very well.
Well, I just want to, I know communication is your specialty. I just know as somebody that deals with a lot of parents, just to underscore how huge that communication, in case some parent missed it, what the governor said. If that holds, that's a huge deal breaker for a lot of parents on whether they send their kids to school or not. So just we'll have to continue to communicate that, and everybody's not surprised about that.
I agree. It could go either way. I think there's some that will say, well, I'm not going to send my kid to school now. I'll do the virtual, and
Yep.
we'll try the best we can to meet all these needs if
Yep.
as possible.
I echo my thanks to the administration again for all the incredible work, as well as the teachers. This has not been an easy task to be prepared, especially when things change all the time. So thank you.
Any other discussion?
And this is a first reading only, and you usually just say this is to review the board policy for first reading only. So
So do we not need a real roll call then?
we've done it in the past, I
Yeah,
think.
we've done it in the past.
Okay, we'll go ahead then.
Michael Howry,
Yes.
Michelle Hayes,
Yes.
Gene Sensi,
Yes.
John Douglas. Vote is 4-0. John, do you say yes?
Yes.
Okay, sorry.
I didn't hear him.
Vote is 4-0.
All right, and under the consent calendar this evening, we have several items. The first is to enter into an agreement with the Madison Village Police Department and Madison Village Council to provide the school resource officer to South Elementary School. To enter into a contract with MBD Medical Environmental Health Solutions in the Madison Local School District to provide COVID-19 safe services for the 2020-21 school year. And then to approve the contract between the Madison Local School District and Belfair Jewish Children's Bureau, operating an educational institution known as Monarch School for education, therapy, and support for students served outside of the Madison Local School District for the 2021 school year.
I'll move.
I'll second.
So under discussion, I'm just going to point out that I know there's been some national discussion about law enforcement. We continue to employ school resource officers in all of our elementary, middle, and high school buildings for the protection of our students, as well as just the continued relationship between our students and law enforcement in a positive way. And so that will be voted on shortly. And Angela, I would just ask if you could talk briefly about this NBD contract and what we're going to gain from these services for COVID-19.
This is a company we've been working with for the past year and some other avenues in the district, and they are helping to develop training protocols, make videos for us that we can use for training with staff regarding our district and our needs. In addition, they have a medical doctor that will be consulting with the district for various things like examining our plan and making recommendations if there's things we need to tweak as we restart school and bring them in. So it's the total cost of the contract is $7,500 to us, and we can use CARES money to pay for that. So it will help us do our jobs better, because I've said so many times in so many different meetings, I'm not a medical expert. Dave and Mike aren't medical experts. And, you know, we need some of that expertise at our fingertips.
So if we have a high-risk situation, whether that be with a student or a staff member, this is a resource for you and your team to be able to contact those folks,
Yes.
get information, get a recommendation, and have experts giving you that, as opposed to just trying to figure things out.
Correct. Or wait for the health department to get back to us, and they're busy. The health department is under-resourced as well.
Any other discussion? call.
Michelle Hayes,
Yes.
Gene Sensi,
Yes.
Sean Douglas,
Yes.
Michael Howery.
Yes.
Vote is 4-0.
Okay, we'll now open the second public participation portion for this evening. Anyone wishing to address the board on any item would have 5 minutes to do so. If you please state your name and address for the board.
Same drill. I'm going to allow everybody to unmute themselves. And everybody should have the opportunity to unmute themselves if they so choose. Jen, can you test it for me? You can't unmute yourself? All right, we have
I
another
was
way.
able to, Mike.
Okay. All right. So anybody who could was able to. If they muted themselves again, they're unable to unmute themselves the second time. So I'm gonna do it again. So everybody once again has the opportunity to unmute themselves if they so choose.
I am Leah Turner, and I live at 35 West Main Street, Madison. And the one thing I just wanted to ask again, thank you for everybody who's doing their part to plan in this crazy difficult time that we're in. My only question is, have we considered the possibility of giving substitute teachers like a higher pay or any incentives or anything? I don't know if anyone, if we've heard of anybody doing anything creative to try to build our substitute team. I know we have wonderful subs in the district, but I also know that like usually like just last year on a normal year, we were always having to cover for other classrooms. And I don't know if we'll still be able to do that. So I know a lot of us teachers have been concerned how, how can we get more substitutes? Because they are going to be one of those special commodities that are going to be difficult to keep. Thank you.
Thank you.
So Sean, I'm gonna go through and individually ask everybody to unmute. Dave tried and it would not allow him to unmute. So I am going to go through every single person, I hope. And nobody leave the meeting. It apparently worked on some and not on
Oh,
all.
hey, can you hear me?
I can hear Jen.
Oh, there we go. Now I don't have anything to say, but yes, I wanted.
Me too.
Shoot. All right, let me just go back this
Well,
way.
he's unmuting. We are looking at all avenues to the substitutes. We did raise it a year ago, I think, or 2 years ago. We do have locked in more building subs, which we know which will help. But it's a problem that is going to loom large, Leah, and we're going to do our best to meet it.
Yeah, we basically doubled the number of building subs, and those subs are paid every day, not just, they're going to be working every day for us, and they're paid at a higher rate. So Angela's kind of addressed that already with doing the 10 building subs.
Is there anyone else wishing to address the board?
I don't see anyone other than Jen.
There's a hand raised, Michael.
Diana.
Oh, there we go. You can unmute yourself now. There we go.
Yes, I have a question, and
I'm sure you probably had some discussion, but are there any plans in place for if a case shows up in a classroom, in a school, or are you going to leave that up to that firm that you had the contract with? Decisions like that.
The first call's to the health department, and then they will give us that direction as to what we need to do to meet the requirements of reporting to them. That, you know, if it's in a classroom, then they'll contact trace, we'll isolate. You could quarantine a classroom. Potentially, they've said you could quarantine a building. So, you know, that's, until we're there, Diana, we don't know what it's going to look like. It's going to be depending upon where that contact is, you know, and how many people have been in contact with that individual.
And there's been a lot of meetings with the health department as well as with the other doctor that's part of NTB. And, you know, basically they say every scenario has its own set of variables. So you're going to kind of look through, you know, exactly what happened, who was exposed, and then make the decisions based on the facts of that particular incident.
Thank you.
Is there anyone else wishing to address the board?
Well, Sean, everybody else is muted. So I guess the only other way to see if anybody else wants to talk short of unmuting everybody again is to have someone use the reactions, the thumbs up or something. And I'll see it on the screen and unmute them or ask them to unmute again.
Okay.
A little difficult with so many people not running video, which is, you know, their prerogative, but
Sure.
I wouldn't have seen Diana. Oh, Shannon, there we go. That worked.
Well, that's a thumbs up and a wave.
Yeah, I'm not sure a thumbs up was really the way I wanted to go, but I've never used the reactions before. So my name is Shannon Craigmont. I live at 5740 Ford Road in Madison. I'm also the principal at South. My kids just graduated from Madison. I don't really have a question. I just want to echo what everyone's been saying tonight about the staff working really hard in this really difficult time. And in addition to that, I want to give a shout out to all of our parents, because even though I've gotten probably more emails in July than ever in my whole lifetime combined, every single person, no matter what their take on the situation or what they think of our plan, every single parent has said, thank you. Thank you for what you're doing. Thank you for the hard work. We understand how hard this is. And I just really think that speaks volumes about our school and our community especially. I can't even answer most of the questions. I just say, well, my best answer today is this, and we're going to try our best. And you know, they're okay with that. So I think it's certainly not an ideal situation that we're in right now, but I think it is showing us some of the great qualities that we have in our town and a lot of teamwork going on. So that's all I wanted to say.
Anyone else wishing to address the board?
Luella Hughes.
Hi, this is her Luella's husband.
Sorry.
No, that's okay. Her name's up there. So, and I'm gonna do that, I guess. I'm sitting here. I've sat in on many different levels of board meetings over the years, and to the 4 board members that I see, was it Michael, Sean, Michelle, and Jean. I'm kind of disappointed in the level of detail that has been provided to the community. The superintendent, Angela, has said probably might be, we're working on it. I don't know that we give any details, any specific details that the teachers can use, that the community can use. Now, if you go and you look back on Coach Dragis's presentation, he gave very specific details on what the requirements were. Matter of fact, he even came back and said, and this is what it's going to cost us. We haven't gotten anything from the, you guys as a board have not been presented with that level of information. I'm very disappointed with that. Especially now they're going to walk away and they're going to have more, people are going to have more questions and more concerns. So that's my comment to you guys. I wish you could do something. I wish you could, instead of either rubber stamping things or challenging things. I mean, Michelle seemed to ask, you know, some good, you know, semi-challenging questions, which is great. But, you know, I think as a board, you guys need to ask these kind of questions. Give me some details. Don't come to a board meeting and not have details on very, very simple questions. So that's my little rant. I know you guys, every single one of you, and I'm sorry, Angela, I know you have the best interest of the district at heart and the kids and everything. But when you come to a board meeting, I'm just disappointed that the level of detail isn't there in your presentation. And I hope that the next board meeting, there will be a lot more detail so that, and that you'll be prepared so that when people do ask questions, we can say things that aren't, well, probably, or, well, we're not really sure yet, or we're working on it. That's the key to it, right? I'm sorry, you're rolling your eyes, but you gotta, I'm disappointed with the, well, we're working on it. We're 3 weeks away from school and we're still working on stuff. And there's a whole community that's trying to plan for this. Board, please hold each other accountable, hold the staff accountable, hold your executives accountable, and get the details that we need. We don't want to know 2 days before school. Sorry, I'm passionate about this. I know you guys can do better. I know you guys care, but the community's really, really frustrated. So that's it. Thank you.
Thank you for your comment. I just want to point out to you that when it comes to what Mr. Dragas had to say tonight, he has very clear guidelines coming from the governor. We do not. The governor has given recommendations. Those recommendations have changed more than once. So as Angela and her staff is building a plan for us, they're building it with very little guidance from the governor's office, because what he has recommended to us has changed on numerous occasions. So though I understand what you're saying, I clearly do, because I will tell you that there's sometimes that I get a little frustrated myself. I also have a little bit of background knowledge to know that when we are in the process of planning one thing and then something changes, we have to change that. I hope that explains to you a little bit of what's going on and what the difference would be between what John Dragas had to say today. He has very clear guidance coming from the governor's office. We do not.
Is there anyone else wishing to address the board? All right, just to close this out, I'm going to echo what Michelle said. I certainly understand, it looks like Mr. Hughes' concern. I have children in the district. I want to know whether my kids are going to play in the marching band. I want to know whether my son's going to be on the swim team this year. I'm waiting as patiently as everyone else is, and to be honest, I don't have a lot of patience. But this is what we've been saddled with. The governor's had every opportunity to give us guidance, and he's not. We've waited for guidance from the Ohio High School Athletic Association, and they dropped the ball. So local school districts, under the guise of nonsense local control, have been waiting around for leadership. We've had none from our state officials. So literally 600 in some school districts have to try to figure this out. So I understand the frustration from other parents. I hope you hear it in my voice that I am with you in frustration. But I can tell you that our administrators are working as hard as they can to come up with the best plan they can to provide safety to our kids, as well as an opportunity for them to participate in the activities that they can participate in. But we have done the best we can. And I'm 100% certain in saying that, as much as I'm impatient myself for my own son. So I don't know what more to say to parents to help them feel better about that. We've dealt with parents who insist on masks because they're very concerned and they have a legitimate concern. We have parents who don't want their children wearing masks. We have children or parents who don't want their children in school because they're concerned. We have parents who want their children in school and want other people's children in school. So, you know, for the criticism to say that we're showing up at a board meeting, we haven't asked questions. You don't know what questions we've asked. We asked a lot of questions behind the scenes. And when we show up at a board meeting, we're ready to present to the public. We're not here necessarily to ask a million questions in public session. We allow for a public comment section, and that's what it's for, is for folks to comment. You've had your opportunity to comment as well as many others have. So I understand the frustration, but some of what you said is just simply not true. There a motion to move into executive session for the purpose of the appointment, employment, dismissal, discipline, promotion, demotion, or compensation of public employees or regulated individuals, or the investigation of charges or complaints against a public employee or regulated individual unless such person requests a public hearing.
I'll move.
Second.
Any discussion? Roll call?
Gene Sensi,
Yes.
Sean Douglas,
Yep.
Michael Howery,
Yes.
Michelle Hayes,
Yes.
vote is 4-0.
Now stand in recess.